Gary Parrish. Welcome back. CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting dodo birds. Leaky Black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do to that like button. Shouts to Brandon Davies. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel. Please also do that while you're here. Let's get into it. The place to start, I think, is the State Farm Center, formerly known as Assembly Hall in Champaign, Illinois. We expected we'd get a good one, and we got a good one. Final score, number 1, Tennessee 66, Illinois 64. The Illini led by as many as 8 points at one point in the game, but then found themselves tied 64-64, 5.7 seconds left on the clock. Jordan Gainey inbounded the ball, got it back, and then went coast to coast for the game-winning bucket. Nada, let's all watch it together.
Illinois will pressure the basketball. Both teams with a timeout. Get it to Gainey. He's been the guy in the second half. Gainey on the drive. Gainey lays it up.
Wow.
And good! They count the buckets. They'll go and look at it again. Wow! Jordan Gainey.
Now, I ain't no basketball coach, Norlander, even if I do kind of look like the greatest basketball coach in UCLA history, and we'll get to him later on. But one of the things I have heard basketball coaches say is you got to stop the ball. You got to stop the ball. Jordan Gainey had the ball pretty much the entire time. Nobody stopped it, and so Tennessee improves to 10-0. Now got 3 quadrant 1 wins. No other zero-loss team in the country has at least 3 quadrant 1 wins, including one coming in a true road environment. That's why the Vols are number 1 in the top 25 and 1. It is why the Vols should remain number 1 in the AP poll on Monday.
What a day and what a place to start. What a game this was. We had a couple of these really good ones. Hello from CBS Sports HQ, by the way. This is like, it is March feeling to me. You're in a hotel room. I'm coming off the desk at HQ. Yeah. This does have a Selection Sunday reaction kind of vibe, because this is normally like exactly where we are when we do the Selection Sunday show. And Saturday was drenched in March vibes there. Tennessee going on the road and winning. We'll get to Auburn in just a minute here, obviously. But after Auburn put on a beatdown, and the question comes up, in fact, Nada, I think that's our poll here. For our live audience on YouTube, it looks like we're really humming here on a Saturday night. More than happy to deliver you a pod here late for our live listeners. And for anyone getting to it on Sunday, well, appreciate you, and hope you enjoy getting this much earlier than usual. But anyway, the poll question, Tennessee, Auburn, or the rest of the SEC, who do you like to be the best team in that conference there? Tennessee getting this win on the road just a couple hours after Auburn was able to just completely embarrass Ohio State, reinforces the fact that Tennessee is going to be number 1 again on Monday in the AP Top 25. It's got bye game opponents upcoming, so it's going to be number 1 once we flip the calendar to 2025. Jordan Gainey stepping up and playing the way he did was impressive. This game, a couple of takeaways on it and some notes on it. No team but led by more than 3 points in the final 9.5 minutes. To me, that's all the more intriguing because Tennessee in every single game up to this point, GP, had a point every single game prior to this where they led by at least 18 points in a game. They actually got tested. We're in a close one, and it was the first time Tennessee had a game decided by fewer than 13 points. And the fact that they were able to get this from Jordan Gainey, 23 points off of the bench, hitting the winning layup. Illinois completely dropping it on defense. It actually had echoes of what Brad Underwood was saying at Big Ten Media Day when he was really concerned about his team's collective defensive identity. Illinois, I mean, and in spots in this game and in spots this season, has obviously made big strides on that. They've been defensively pretty damn decent, but man, if Brad Underwood decided to break furniture when he got home, I would completely understand, because they had a couple of boneheaded, and Robbie Hummel called this out on the play-by-play as it was going down. They had a couple of what the F are you doing out of timeouts immediately with turnovers, and then you don't play any kind of, ball man defense on Gainey, who goes coast to coast. Incredible play. Really good. Ziegler had got his 4th foul early in the second half, and then Lanier fouls out with less than 4 minutes to go. Tennessee is able to overcome it. How? Only 6 turnovers, their fewest in a game this season. Limiting collectively, like Kasparis Yakachonis, he had 22. He had a couple of really awesome sequences there, but they limited him to a certain extent. They were able to do that. Trey White, Will Riley, Kylan Boswell combined for 31. It's not their best outing, obviously. Super impressive by Tennessee. I would take Auburn right now over Tennessee in terms of just what team I think is better. If they both played on a neutral court in 24 hours, Auburn would be the favorite team. Auburn is ahead of Tennessee by basically 4 points in net rating and adjusted efficiency margin at KenPom as we speak. Like, Auburn is statistically, definitively the number one team in the country on that end, but Tennessee's number one in the AP rankings, which carries, for posterity's sake, that's the thing that people are going to pay the most attention to. Certainly college basketball fans outside of the diehards that are going to follow podcasts and do all that kind of stuff. So Tennessee's got the number one in ranking in the human polls. Auburn's got the number one in all of the computer metrics, and good on the Vols, GP. They are 10-0 for just the fifth time in school history, the first time since 99-2000, and this was only the second time since 1938-39 that they won on the road against the Big Ten. 2-11 all time. Only other win not so long ago. They beat Wisconsin on the road in 2023. What were your thoughts on the game?
Well, you mentioned Brad. Like, we saw it in that highlight. Like, he's just sort of on the sideline. Like, he's not yelling and screaming. He's just like the classic hand through your hair. Like, mother, like just frustrated. Like,
man, I couldn't believe what I was watching develop. I was like, someone's going to pick this guy up, right? Someone's going to pick him up.
It was just, point A, point B.
English, and it's in. Yep.
Nobody even turned him. I mean, that's the other thing. It stopped the ball, but if you don't stop the ball, turn him. They even turned him. So that's just the good news is that's correctable, right? I mean, you're Brad, you sit down with your guys tomorrow or whenever they get back together, you can show that and use it as a teachable moment. If I were an Illinois fan, I'd be more focused on, hey, we're still, relatively speaking, a young team and a new team, and we just traded blows for 40 minutes with the number one team in the country. Now, here's the problem. If you want to take the other side of it, yeah, but you still lost to the number one team in the country on your home court, and they didn't even play that well. Like, what if I would have told you this before the game, that Chaz Lanier and Zakai Ziegler would combine to shoot 6 of 22 from the field and both foul out? Who would you tell me wins the game?
I know.
But that's what happened. They were 6-22 combined from the field. They both fouled out, and Tennessee still managed to win on the road. And as long as we're talking about what coaches will tell you over and over again, that's another one that coaches will go to all the time. Man, when you can play poorly and still beat a good team on the road, you've got something special. And it does look like they've got something special. I don't know how many teams are going to go into the State Farm Center and win this year, but Tennessee's going to have that one in their back pocket. And oh, by the way, just out of curiosity, I did go and look this up. Assembly Hall at Illinois opened in 1963.
Oh, okay.
Assembly Hall at Indiana, do you know when it opened?
I'm going to guess blindly 71.
You're the best blind guesser I've ever seen.
That's what it is?
1971.
Give it to me.
But, like, do people know this? Can you be a blue blood program and just steal your arena's name from a conference rival?
Spare Indiana till the end of the show.
I mean, what? You're supposed to be a blue blood.
They weren't at the time. I think the erection of Assembly Hall actually led them to blue blood territory. I don't know.
I mean,
71.
What?
How about that?
But anyway, let's not get off topic.
This is actually the fault of Illinois fans for not having a PR machine making this known for decades, by the way.
How could you have not?
Okay.
Like, I should have known this because Illinois fans won't shut up about it. That's why I should know it. It should be like, can you believe Indiana tried to steal our arena's name once upon a time, and they claim to be a blue blood, and they haven't finished in the top 15.
This is on you, Fornelli. It's on you, Will Leach.
How is Will Leach and Tom Fornelli never told me that Indiana stole Illinois' arena name? It's unacceptable. This should be something everybody knows. But let's not get too distracted. Let's focus on the SEC and continue to celebrate that basketball league, because
oh my gosh,
Tennessee was not the only SEC school that got a big win on Saturday. Like, I think most of them got big wins.
Trivia time.
Okay.
SEC's record on Saturday:
13-1.
13-1, and the one. LSU just couldn't pull it out, I guess.
It was like today, as I was sitting around watching SEC games, I couldn't tell if this was just a normal Saturday in December or the SEC ACC Challenge.
I know, right?
They looked exactly the same.
So confusing. What's going on here?
Look exactly the same. Hey, we'll talk about the rest of the SEC. We'll do that in a second. But first, let's pay some bills, get a word from a partner.
It's partner.
Yes, it's true. The SEC went 13-1 on Saturday. Among the highlights, Auburn 91, Ohio State 53. Jake Diebler found out the hard way what it's like to get Dieblered.
It's done. Yeah.
Bruce Pearl, Diebler.
Yeah. The concept of Diebblering in Ohio State and pressing that upon an opponent is no longer a thing. They reverse Dieblered him and in the process eradicated the concept altogether.
91-53. Kentucky 93, Louisville 85. Wildcats get the win. Cardinals get the cover. I told you on Friday, it's too many points to give to a man with a hot wife and healthy kids in a rivalry game. You tried to give 10.5 points to a man with a hot wife, healthy kids in a rivalry game. I told you that was too much. It proved to be just a little too much.
Hold on. By the way, I think I could be lying again. I feel like I went 3-2 and you went 2-3, but maybe that's incorrect. I don't know.
Are you? This is just your new
one
thing.
One of us trusted UD Arena and one of us did not, but we'll get there eventually.
This is just your new thing, I guess. That you're just gonna like it's a presidential debate every
week. You go
week.
3-2? I don't know.
I don't know either.
Okay.
I don't know. This is not a presidential debate. You can't just say whatever you want to and not be held accountable. All right. Does this look like it kind of does look like a presidential debate?
It actually kind of does, to be honest.
It's not. This is not a presidential
debate.
Debate.
By the way, come on, man. We're approaching midnight. Loosen that tie.
Okay.
Getting another. I got one button loose. You know what? I'm going a second button. I'm gonna do a B block, B button. There we go. Don't worry, I got a little undershirt on. There we go.
This might look like a presidential debate.
Well,
but
it's starting to look like something else, actually. Bama over Creighton, A&M over Purdue, Florida over Arizona State, Kentucky over Louisville, as you mentioned here. SEC teams won 5 games by at least 20 points on Saturday, GP, and by an overall average of 13.8 points. That's accounting for LSU being in the negative column as well. I got more nuggets and goodies, but take it as you please. Thoughts? Any of the games? Take it wherever you want, my man.
Well, I guess let's just start with Auburn. I mean, 91-53, BP Diebler. And Janai Broome might have taken the unofficial lead. If he didn't already have it, he might have already had it.
I think he had it, but now there's a little bit of distance.
I mean, he had a historically unbelievable game. 6'10" senior, took 18 shots, made half of them, missed half of them. Finished with 21 points, 20 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 blocks, 0 turnovers, making him the first Division I player in the past 25 years to have at least 20 points, at least 20 rebounds, at least 5 assists, and 0 turnovers in the same game. According to our buddy Jared Burson, who invented research, there was no such thing as research before Jared Burson. A lot of people don't realize that. Pre-Jared Burson, things would just happen, and then we'd go like, I wonder if that's ever happened before. But we didn't know. We just wonder. We'd be like,
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the team of researchers here at CBS Sports HQ who helped me with a number of stats all afternoon and evening and for this very podcast. But yeah, you sure? Go ahead.
Did they give you this exactly?
They did not give me this exactly.
Okay. Well, then I'm giving credit where credit is due.
Fair
all right. I hold myself to a certain standard. I'm gonna give credit where credit is due. Used to pre-Jared Burson, things would happen. We'd be like, I wonder if that's ever happened before, but we just didn't know. Now we know. And thanks to Jared Burson, here's what I know. Janai Broome is the first Division I player past 25 years. No, we already did that one. There's been 3 individual let me tell you what Jared Burson told me. There's been 3 individual performances of at least 20 points and at least 15 rebounds and at least 5 assists in a Division I game so far this season. Do you hear what I'm saying? There's been 3 of these, 20 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists in a D1 game this season. It's happened 3 times. And Janai Broome is responsible for all 3 of those. He's now averaging 19.7 points, 12.7 rebounds, 3.8 assists, 2.8 blocks in 29.7 minutes per game for an Auburn team that is 9-1. and number 2 in the top 25 and 1. Yes, I think right now Johni Broome is probably your leading candidate for National Player of the Year. And do you realize this? Let's say he goes on and wins National Player of the Year. That will mean that our past 3 National Players of the Year, it would be under these circumstances, Johni Broome, Zach Edey, and Zach Edey. The past 3 National Players of the Year would have been 3-star prospects from the class of 2020.
Okay, there we go. I didn't know where you're going with that, but fair enough. You know what's sick is that he went for 21, 20 boards 6 times in 26 minutes.
Yeah.
It took him 26 minutes. Auburn won this game by 38 points. It was on the Atlanta Hawks court. It looked weird. I didn't know what dimension I had entered into. Normally they change out the court for these things, but not for Holiday Hoops Giving. Nope, no chance. Listen, we've talked about Auburn plenty. We will continue to do so. Broome is the front runner for National Player of the Year. This was a runaway. Ohio State, meantime, is 6-4. Now it has Kentucky in a must-win non-conference game next Saturday at the CBS Sports Classic up here in the Northeast at Madison Square Garden.
Must win?
Yeah, I think so.
You're already doing a must win. It ain't even Christmas.
You get trounced by 38 like this. You're 6-4.
Well, what do you mean must win? If they don't win, what's going to happen to them?
Well, we're going to talk badly about them on the podcast.
I'm not.
I guarantee I will. If Ohio State loses again in 6-5, I'm not going to be complimenting them on the show.
I will.
It's not going to happen.
I'll find.
You'll find a way to do it.
I'll find the good.
I'll tell you what. Another 38, 35, 30-point differential. Not going to be good for anybody. So hopefully they can dodge that. Can we talk? Speaking of Kentucky, Kentucky wins. Louisville loses. Pat Kelsey still got a hot wife. Mark Pope as well, of course.
Yeah.
First 10-1 start for Kentucky since 2016-17. Louisville falls to 6-5. We expected Kentucky to win. You had them not covering. I had them covering. Regardless, how about this? Louisville competitive the entire night. Chucky Hepburn practically carried the Cardinals. I mean, he played 39 minutes, 26-5-5. Watching the game, just in addition to Kentucky having the home court advantage, GP, just more depth, more talent overall. Lamont Butler coming to life, though, after not playing recently. 10 of 10 from the field, 6 of 6 from 3-point range. He's not a 3-point shooter, and he goes nuts. He had 7 3-pointers made on the season going into this game. Finished with 33 points. First Kentucky player to hit 30-plus this season. And I'll tell you what, it's just the word that comes to mind when I think Kentucky is ensemble, because they do have very few teams this is actually true of, but they have 5 or 6 players that really can be capital T, capital G, the guy on a given night. And this was Lamont Butler's. I would have taken the under if you gave me 0.5 on Lamont Butler 30-point games this season. Well, he's already cashed the over, and we're on December 14th. And in doing so, got Kentucky to its 7th game with at least 90 points this season. Shouts to our CBS Sports researchers because they gave that to me. That's the most in Division I of any team in the country. That was a redundant sentence. And meantime, Louisville still trying to claw and scratch through. But Cardinals fans, they're walking through the desert at this point because they are 1-19 in their last 20 games against ranked opponents. So they're just looking for any kind of notable victory. It wasn't going to happen on Saturday, but impressed by the way they fought and actually kept it interesting for the better part of 40 minutes.
Yeah, listen, I know Louisville fans don't want consolation prizes, and I know this isn't fun. Like, anytime you lose to your in-state rival, that's not a good day. But don't forget where you were not too long ago. You're at least a competent basketball team right now. Like, you're not embarrassing yourself over and over again. And so 6-5 still isn't, I think, where you should be or where you expect it to be. But, you're not embarrassing yourself every game. And that means this season is different from the past couple of years. Florida 83, Arizona State 66. So the Gators now have a quadrant 1 victory. And buddy,
is this Q1? Genuine question.
I mean, as of this moment, yes.
Okay, I wonder if it may still be that when they refresh on Sunday morning,
but it may not.
But even if it's not,
right?
Florida continues to destroy teams.
That's
Like we're talking the SEC at large here, and it's ridiculous how many good teams are in this league, man. Like this is really encroaching on unprecedented territory. Florida has won all of its games by an average of 21.1 points. They just keep destroying teams. And go ahead, keep up with your thought. But like, even if Arizona State isn't going to be a tournament team, and maybe it will be, I don't know. But all I know is we went into this game wanting to see a bit more from both of these sides. Was intrigued to see how both teams responded, and Florida crushed another opponent. So no reason to doubt them. And I know you don't know this yet. I know you're going to bump them up, but there is a lot of metrics say that's a top 10 team. You had them at 17.
Yeah.
I got to figure you're moving them up at least 4 or 5 spots after getting this win.
Yeah, I mean, listen, as I said on Friday's pod, I'm very aware of the computer numbers and very aware of the way they've been overwhelming opponents. But, you know, if I would have had them, they were literally the only team in the top 25-1 heading into this weekend that did not have a quadrant 1 win. They had a strength of schedule in the 300s. They had, I think at the time, 0 top 60 KenPom victories. They'd beaten a bunch of bad or mediocre teams. Now, they had beaten them badly and played really efficiently, but still the signature wins that it usually requires for me to start moving you up if I had you lower than, than where you'd like to be, that was lacking. And I guess on some level, it's still lacking. Like they still have 0 wins over top 55 KenPom teams. Arizona State's 35th in the net this morning, but is clearly going to drop on Sunday morning when everything refreshes. As long as they stay in the top 50, it remains a quadrant 1 win. If it falls out of that, it doesn't. Either way, I don't really care. That's the type of performance against what I believe is a quality opponent that forces even a skeptic to pay attention. Arizona State entered this game 8-1 with a win over St. Mary's, and the lone loss was at Gonzaga in the kennel by 8. Mm-hmm. So Arizona State couldn't even play with Florida on a neutral as well as it played with Gonzaga inside the kennel, for whatever that's worth. Great win by Florida. Up next, North Carolina in Charlotte on Tuesday. I haven't even started to look at the top 25-1 yet, but yes, I will move them up, I believe, significantly.
Okay, couple notes on the game because I tried to watch a lot of it, even though it wasn't that close. Florida on the offensive rebounding side, super impressive. And if that's going to continually be a facet, then this team is going to 100% be in the thick of the top of the SEC race. Walter Clayton Jr. had 25. It's the 4th time he's had at least 25 in a game. He had 5 threes. It's the 5th straight game he's hit at least 5 triples in a game. He's an All-American at this point, without question, whether it's first team, second team, third team, whatever. I don't care. He's one of the 15 most important players in the country to this point, and it's been a little bit quiet so far, but he's a stud and is showing up. And if he is going to play at that level, even more evidence why Florida is a legit contender. Also, Will Richard and Elijah Martin combined for 31 more points. So that trio had 56 of Florida's 83 points. This is only the 3rd time ever Florida has started a season 10-0, 05-06, and then 51-52 were the other ones there. If Arizona State had been able to be even halfway decent from 3-point range, it might have been a closer game, but 2 different teams. Florida came ready. Let's talk about the game on CBS that started the afternoon. A&M wins 70-66 over Purdue. A&M has won 5-6 in a row at this point. And it's been winning games close. Like 4 of the past 5 wins, I think, are by 4 points or fewer at this point. It is yet to lose. A&M is to a ranked opponent this season. Impressive. Has beaten Purdue. Creighton was ranked at the time, and Ohio State was ranked at the time. Wade Taylor had 15 in this game. Zurich Phelps and Farrell Payne each had 16 apiece there. And they were able to contain Trey Kaufman-Renn, just had 11. Braden Smith was okay. He had a hell of a play late, but ultimately Purdue lost the game. If they had won the game, it would have been the thing that turned it when he was diving on the floor, no look pass over his shoulder, leads to a bucket on the other end, but it winds up not being, not mattering there. I thought A&M's physicality, I think Raph mentioned it early on in the game. It absolutely was a thing that helped A&M pull this out and win it over a de facto road game there. Purdue is 8-3, but A&M gets the good win, yet another one for the SEC here. And as we talk about all these teams, I think that's the one that's easy to get lost in the group. Don't let it get lost in the group. Few teams return more year over year production, minutes, the whole deal as A&M. And because of that, it's got a real chance here, just like Florida and all these other teams, to to make a big push and be a top 15 level kind of team, it will be that once the AP poll refreshes on Monday.
I know we're talking SEC here. Just one point about Purdue, because that was on the other side of the Texas A&M victory. And then I've got some big picture stuff on the league, the SEC, that I want to throw at you.
Okay.
Past 2 seasons, Purdue didn't take its 3rd loss until February.
Yeah, how about that?
Now they've got a 3rd loss on December 14th.
They're all good. Not that this matters, but they're
not
all,
bad.
they're all good losses, if I remember.
I'm not.
It's just the thing they didn't. Yeah, Marquette away, Penn State away, and then A&M. These are all quad 1 losses. They're all going to age well. They've beaten Bama. They've beaten Ole Miss. They've beaten Maryland. I know what you're saying, but I'm just giving some context for our audience there. Purdue, I think you're going to be okay. But by the way, you got Auburn next week. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's not sounding the alarm on Purdue. They think they might still win the Big Ten. I mean, somebody's got to. But it is just what I said as a fact. 2 years ago, they didn't take the 3rd loss till February. Last year, they didn't take the first. Last season, didn't take the 3rd loss till February. Now they've already got 3 losses. It's December 14th. It's never just one thing, but after the previous loss, I watched Matt Painter's post-game press conference, and he really emphasized not just turnovers, but turnovers by our best players. Like, we can't have our best players turning it all over all the time. And then that is what happened again in this one. Braden Smith had 5. Trey Kaufman-Wren, I want to say maybe had Braden Smith had 6. This is the second 6 turnover game for him this season. And one of the points I made on CBS Sports Network is that, again, it's never just one thing, but this is a thing. Purdue is averaging 18.3 turnovers in its 3 losses this season. In the 8 wins, it's down to 10.1. They're averaging 8 more turnovers per game in losses than they do in wins. And Braden Smith is a decent percentage of that. He obviously has the ball in his hands a lot. And sort of the point I made, and it's a simple point, but I think it's an important one. Purdue, even over the past couple of years, has never been like the best in the country at taking care of the ball. But what they were among the best in the country at was offensive rebounding, because they had a 7'4", 2-time Wooden Award winner down there constantly getting offensive rebounds. And so for every shot you didn't get on a possession that ended in a turnover, you might get an extra shot because of a Zach Edey offensive rebound. Well, now you're not getting those offensive rebounds and those extra shots off of the offensive glass, and you're turning the ball over. And again, it's never one thing, but that has been a glaring thing in their losses. They're turning the ball over more than they need to.
I think that is undeniable. And at certain points during the game today, it was all the more clear. And interested to see how Purdue shows up against Auburn next week, but that's going to be for a couple shows from now, because that is a really good opportunity. And if Auburn from today played Purdue from today, I don't know if it would be a 38-point margin, but it would be more than 20.
Let me hit you with this.
Okay.
As noted, SEC on Saturday went 13-1.
Yeah, Bama beat Creighton, by the way, was the other
Yes.
one of like note. Creighton, and that's tough ask for Creighton. They actually kept it competitive. Bama gets another win. Bama, I believe, is now 8-2. So again, across the board, up and down. What do you got for me?
So, okay, SEC 13-1.
Yep.
On Saturday, got 3 wins over Big Ten schools, 2 wins over the Big 12 schools, and 1 win each over the Big East and the ACC. The lone SEC loss on Saturday, SMU 74, LSU 64. Right now, the SEC has 12 top 40 KenPom teams, including the top 2 and 4 of the top 8. Nobody is lower than 68. I think most people who follow the sport know in 2011, the Big East sent 11 teams to the NCAA tournament. That remains the record.
Yeah, that's not going to be the record in 2025.
You think they're going over 11?
Yes, I said it on HQ tonight. The SEC will send 12 teams to the tournament. Yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. There's been too much domination across the board.
That's right.
It would, like, what you'd have to have happen to miss, GP, is like, okay, so South Carolina, LSU, we'll say maybe not. Vandy's 9-1. Who the hell knows? But, like, some combination, like, Oklahoma hasn't lost yet, GP. Going to have to fall off the side of a cliff. Georgia has 1 loss. Arkansas has 2. Texas has 2. Missouri has 1. Like, these teams are going to have to be 6-win teams in the league. I told Hakeem Dermish on the desk, the great Hakeem Dermish, SEC sending 12 teams to the tournament, man. It's going to happen. There are all these teams are freaking incredible because they're all really, 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 really good. Like, even the teams that don't win more than 7 league games are still going to have such healthy resumes from a quad 1, quad 2. Like, they're not going to be bogged down by a lot of that stuff. And remember, the SEC is an 18-game league schedule, not a 20-game league schedule. So they're going to puff up. Like, I'm just, as a random one, I brought up Oklahoma. They're 10-0. They got to play Michigan on a neutral next week. If they win that, forget it. They've got Central Arkansas and Prairie View to close out. Those are quad 4 opponents. I get all that, but they're just, there's auto wins to add to the schedule. So I think the worst case scenario, I'm not kidding, man. The worst case scenario for the SEC is sending 11 teams to the tournament and tying the Big East for the all-time record. But I think it's going to break it and send a dozen.
It's certainly on a path to do that. And there's some numbers to support it. So I just ran you to the SECs. Let's do some comparison here. And this will illustrate the SEC is performing right now ahead of where the Big East did in 2011. So in 2011, the Big East had 10 top 40 KenPom teams, but only one of the top 8 and actually 4 teams outside of the top 70. All right? 10 top 40, but only one of the top 8 and 4 outside of the top 70. Right now, the SEC has 12 in the top 40, 4 of the top 8, and 0 teams outside of the top 70. It's stronger at the top. It's stronger at the bottom. It's stronger in the middle. We really might be watching right now, whether people know it or not, the best men's basketball conference in the history of the sport. That might be what we're watching right now. And then people would ask, okay, well then how did this happen? It's not hard to figure out. Transfer portal, transfer waivers, NIL. These schools have lots of money, and they have spent millions and millions and millions of dollars of it in the transfer portal. They've spent millions and millions of dollars to hire some of, perhaps most of, the best coaches in the country. And when you combine all of that stuff, this is what you get.
The SEC has played 163 games. It's won 88% of them so far going into Sunday. 143-20. That's a joke. That is an absolute absolute. I'm in awe of what I'm seeing here, because I remember in the preseason we talked about it. You asked me, would the SEC overtake the Big 12? And I said no, because I had to actually see the Big 12 not be the best one. Now I see that. And I thought the SEC would be the deepest. It's the deepest. It's the widest. It's the longest. Well, however you want to say it.
Well, be careful with how you're saying this.
Sure. That calls for another unbuttoning. Button number 3. There it goes.
I didn't know where you were trying to go with this thing.
And that's, I was like, the SEC.
I was like, oh, buddy.
You know what I'm saying? It's incredible what this league has been and what it will continue to be. And it's actually going to put me in the rare spot of there's going to be some team that's like 5-10 in the league, and I'll be like, yeah, make them a 10 seed. Make them a 10 seed. It'll be very, very interesting. But yes, another incredible day for the conference. Hey, Nada, Mike, on real quick, as this is the poll question. I'm curious what our audience has said here. I think the poll was Tennessee, Auburn, or any of the rest of the SEC teams. Which one do you think is the best or will be the best? I don't know how you phrased it. What are our results before we get to the rest of the sport?
The results so far are Auburn with 45% of the vote, Tennessee with 35% of the vote. Other is dragging up the rear with 21%.
And that other is Kentucky, Bama, Florida, Oklahoma hasn't lost yet. And I don't think anyone thinks Oklahoma is the best team in the league, but you get the point there. I would take, if we're phrasing this as what team do you think will be the best team in the SEC by the time we get to Selection Sunday? Auburn fans, come embrace me. Auburn is my pick. However, this league is so good that there are a number of other candidates. I presume GP is with me, although maybe not. Maybe you think it'll be the Vols. What do you say?
I've been wildly distracted. Somehow my microphone has connected to my iPhone, and I don't know what's going on.
I hear you. I hear you.
You hear me fine?
I don't know how the hell you've done that, because I'm pretty sure this is a wired connection, and you don't have a dongle.
I don't
for
know
your
what's
iPhone?
going on. Like my phone just said like, hey, you're connected to me now. I don't know what's happening. But does everything sound okay? Because you're no longer in my ears. You are coming through my computer speakers now.
Okay, I can hear you just fine.
Okay.
Nada, can you hear GP just fine?
Oh yeah, we can hear GP just fine.
Then you
Okay,
know what I think it is?
Hmm.
I think it's time for a word from our partners.
All right, good. Give me
Let's
one.
just do it. Come on, let's go.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news,
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
highlights, and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
Okay, Norlander, this is very uncomfortable.
I don't know what to tell you.
Just the way
You know what? It's time to unbutton another button. That's what you got to do. Yeah, that's right.
Let me unbutton. The way my mind works, anytime something doesn't go exactly the way I expect it to go, I get really uncomfortable.
Well, you know what? The key to life: roll with the changes.
Yeah, I've
Arias
never
being
been able to do that well, though.
You can't tune a fish, but you can tune a piano. What's that RESP? You got to roll with the changes, okay?
Yeah, I've had multiple therapists have pointed that out. It's just
You can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish. That's the album. There we go.
I think that can you tune a fish? Can't tune a piano. I guess that's technically true. You know,
Yeah.
I guess that's technically true. Okay, it wasn't. There are other teams outside of SEC teams and teams that played SEC teams actually participated in the sport of college basketball on Saturday, right? Yes. And one of the biggest games of the night. It happened just down the street. It was inside Madison Square Garden. You just walk a few blocks that way, and you're inside the world's most famous arena. Then you could just walk like maybe 3 minutes that way, and you're right there at the site of a CEO killing. Just depending on which way you walk.
Okay, I didn't realize that was the proximity.
It's really like 2 minutes away from my hotel. I walked by there this morning. I was going for a walk, and I was like, I'll walk this way. You know, I'll just walk this way. And it's remarkable how I don't know what I expected, but it was just like as normal as ever. Like there was no indication that the biggest story in the world had happened here less than 2 weeks ago. There was no indication of that.
Well, you're on a streak now. You've invoked this story into, I think, 4 straight podcasts. So
I'm enamored with it, man. I can't get enough of it.
I got you. We do have UConn fans in the live chat who are on the Metro North train heading back home there. So let's talk Huskies over Zags. Hello. Atonement has come in full. UConn is undefeated on the mainland. They can't be beaten if they're not playing in Hawaii. What an impressive 77-71 win over Gonzaga. This was one of those games where practically pulsating through the television came through loud and clear. Big swings, good defense for UConn in this one. 2 top 5 offenses here. I did think that the winning team would definitely hit at least 80. Didn't happen there. I think the biggest story for me is UConn now responding to its pratfall in Maui by getting a good quality outing home win over Baylor, going to Texas and having a really good effort and winning that game in convincing fashion, and then getting this game at Store South and beating Gonzaga, and now going 3 for 3 against high major non-con opponents in the month of December. To me, that's the biggest one. UConn now reestablishing itself as a team that deserves to be taken seriously again as a Final Four contender. It might be the best team in the Big East. Marquette fell. We'll get to that shortly here. That's the biggest one. But then if that's 1A, 1B is quite clearly the Liam McNeeley breakout game, and how he was everything and everywhere all at once. 26 points, 8 boards, 4 assists, 10 of 12 from the line. Was certainly not playing like a freshman in this game whatsoever. Got logged 37 minutes, and it was so damn impressive to see him just show up like the game was on his shoulders and he was not going to let UConn lose. And it was most on him. I mean, Jalen Stewart came off the bench and had 12. Terrace Reed Jr. had 10. Terrace Reed Jr. had 12. Samson Johnson went down in the first half, did not return. So UConn wins this game even shorthanded. And what makes it even more surprising to the Zags fans watching, I know there's frustration over this. Graham Ike, 3 points, 4 turnovers, 4 fouls. WTF? Seriously, I was shocked at how much he was taken out of the game and was not a factor whatsoever. Him and Hickman didn't even score. See, if you're a Gonzaga fan, you know that if you're going to be the kind of team that can make yet another Sweet 16 and hopefully get, 2, 3, 4 seed, whatever it's going to be, you can't have these kind of no-shows from guys that are starters. Like Caleb Battle, 21 points. He showed up like the way they needed him to. Nemar, for the most part, he only hit 1 triple, but I'd say it was mostly good. Ajayi also was pretty solid there. You didn't get a ton off the bench. It wasn't a no-show bench performance, but EK's got to be dictating the tempo, especially when you don't have Samson Johnson. That was surprising to me. Good on the Huskies. Garden seemed incredible, and I know Dan Hurley and that staff and that team's got to be feeling pretty damn good. Xavier's coming up next here in a couple days, but wow, awesome game on tenterhooks for the better part of 2 hours, and UConn is back and will threaten to bump back into the top 10 after falling all the way to 25 following Maui. Your thoughts, GP? I cannot hear GP. Nada, can you hear GP? I need help here.
Am I here now?
Yes, I got you.
So, as I was saying,
here you go. Okay.
I know some people had rolled their eyes at Dan when he, after UConn got back from Maui, said that he doesn't think he'll do any of those 3-game multi-team events anymore. But I think there might be something to it.
Yeah, this was already predetermined before the results of that too, but that's totally side thing. He didn't decide this after going 0-3. This has been a thing going on in sports and college hoops for a while, and we've talked.
But the way it played out for sports fans was,
I know
they watched UConn go 0-3, and then they watched UConn's coach say what he said.
Right.
Except I think there might be something to it. They didn't have time to catch their breath over there and sort of recover and just be they went through an entire offseason either thinking of themselves as the back-to-back champs or the soon-to-be three-peat champs. This was the mindset they carried around with them. And then you play 4-0 games to start the season. You're winning them easily, so that's not going to make you snap into anything. And then you go and you lose an overtime game, and then you got to come back out next day, and then 1-point loss. And then it's almost like you're playing golf and something goes poor. And so often in golf, one bad shot leads to the next bad shot because you need a second. Take a deep breath, slow down. And in Maui or any of these events where you're just going pop, 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 back to back to back, it can be a little harder to catch your breath, to slow down and recover from this thing you didn't expect to go through. But man, since they've gotten back, I mean, the proof is in everything we're watching. They look like a different basketball team. And not just that, they look like the basketball team we thought they would look like when we were all ranking them in the top 5 in the preseason. So it's all good stuff. And now, this was a great Saturday for UConn, and not just because of what UConn did. UConn gets a quad 1 win over the Zags in the Garden. Meantime, one of the teams you lost to, Memphis, goes to Clemson and wins. That's a big win for them. Another team you lost to, Dayton, knocks out Marquette at home. And so your losses are better losses now than they were when you woke up this morning. And you've got, a big signature quad 1 win over another prominent program. I know it felt like it was in a weird place 2 weeks ago, but they're in a good place right now.
They're in a very good place. UConn fans got to be just flying at this moment, because it's not just that you've won, but if you really look at, you take each game and how they defeated Baylor, how they defeated Texas, and how they defeated Gonzaga, there were different through lines to victories in each of those kind of games, and they've come back strong. UConn very much back, and maybe some of that playing in the Garden juju also goes a long way there. You mentioned Marquette Dayton. Let's talk about that. In fact, I got another declaration for you. Big 12, I think, is going to send Big 12 again. It's been a long day. SEC is going to send 12 teams to the tournament. A10 sending 3 teams to the tournament in 2025, GP. The A10 had one of those kind of days that will wind up mattering significantly once we are into the final 2-3 week run up to Selection Sunday. And as an additional side point, and let's just save this for down the road here. Like, I know the tournament's likely going to be 72 or 76 teams and they're going to expand it, but I do really treasure the fact that it is a 68 team tournament and there's just that much more of a pressure on these games in these days. You have the ability over the course of a season to build up a resume and a lot of opportunities, but at the same time, it is still hard to get in the tournament. And for a team like Dayton having Marquette on its home floor, this is, to me, going to be one of the clinchers. Maybe Dayton gets in and it's a 6 seed and it's not even closer, right? Or maybe Bonaventure needs this win against Providence. There's a lot that I treasure about the 68 team field, and if it was 76, not that these wins wouldn't matter, they would, but you'd have a little more slack on the line, and for that, that's why I like the 68 team field, one of dozens and dozens of reasons. But Marquette loses at Dayton after Dayton got out to a slow start. It was on our air, CBS Sports Network. I watched you at halftime and post game, GP.
Sweet.
I mean, well, of course, I wanted to check in, and with the great Joe Musso, who I've done many an HQ here at Stanford. He did a great job on the desk tonight, along with Pete and Seawalk. But the point is, Marquette swamped him right away, and then Dayton just flipped it in the second half, 45-27. They were able to contain Cam Jones. That's a hard place to win. Dayton's won 24 in a row at home. Zed Key had some big buckets late. Just really good stuff, and good on Shocker for being willing to play that game. But it was a huge day for the A10 between that and Bonaventure, which is now 10-1. Shouts to Woj. No Bryce Hopkins, but Bona didn't have its starting point guard either. And Providence is now, by the way, Providence is 0-3 against the A10 this season, and the A10 is 7-4 against the Big East. And that's the league that the A10 cares most about, because it is a basketball first kind of league, and it's one tier below the Big East. And so for the Atlantic 10, which is going to be guaranteed to finish above 500 against the Big East in this regular season, that was huge. And Bonaventure and Providence had not played in 44 years. I think they're sending at least 3 because of this, GP. Let me bring up the records right now as they stand as we head into Sunday here. The A10 is the 8th conference overall at Ken Pom. Loyola Chicago plays Sunday, but it's still undefeated, one of only 6 undefeated teams left. Bonnies are 10-1, one of their better starts, obviously, over the past few decades. Dayton and VCU are both 9-2. URI is also 9-1. That's 5 teams with 0, 1, or 2 losses. And it's got, 5-6 teams that rate as top 100 right now. Really, like, the SEC is a beast, but it's a different animal altogether. The A10 outside of the SEC, I thought, had the best day or the best stretch here over the past few days in ensuring, and I mean what I say there, I think that the A10 is about as close to a lock as you could ask for on getting multiple teams into the tournament, and not having a situation where it's going to be like, well, one team's going to get in no matter what, and they need someone else to win the tournament to get 2 in. I think we'll have at least 3 teams with at-large resumes when we get to March.
You sure are locking up a lot of stuff.
I'm locking it up. I'm locking it up left and right.
I'm not ready to talk about A10 locks.
Oh, well.
But the A10 is having a nice season, and obviously a big day for the Bonnies. Yeah, no Bryce Hopkins. I don't care. When you're St. Bonaventure and you're knocking off Big East programs, you celebrate that. And yeah, the Bonnies didn't have their starting point guard, who's also a double-digit scorer. So I don't want to say that cancels everything out. Bryce Hopkins, the better player, I believe, but still, the Bonnies were missing a significant player as well. With Bryce, you just hope this isn't a thing, right? He had ACL surgery, comes back, plays 3 games, and then it's like, knee soreness, can't play this one. You just hope this doesn't prevent him from being everything that he can be, and by extension, that team everything that it can be. Dayton, now 2-0 against the Big East with wins over UConn and Marquette. Print the shirts. Dayton, Big East champs.
Sure.
Print the shirts.
I feel like you might need a 3rd win in there just to make sure. Get 3, but feel free. You want to print the shirts?
Well, then fine. Schedule.
Maybe they meet a Big East team in the tournament and we see if that.
Remember during COVID, we just schedule games like 48 hours in advance.
It was awesome. It was awesome, and it wasn't at the same time. Oh my gosh!
Like anytime ever any
scoops.
coach anytime any coach starts to complain about the complexities of scheduling, I remind them that just a few years ago you were doing games in 48 hours. Relax, Anthony Grant. Go schedule you one more Big East team for next weekend, and let's get this thing up to 3-0.
Good post-game scene with Grant in the locker room as well. He's a guy who's got a heck of a poker face, and he was really basking in it, as he should. Let's continue this this Saturday whip around. Most disappointing team in the country is Arizona, because Arizona is 4-5. This was the number 10 team in the preseason. I cannot believe I watched the entire stretch. I can't believe I saw a Tommy Lloyd coach team go 8 minutes and 46 seconds without a made field goal, and specifically the final 8 minutes and 46 seconds of the game. They had 5 turnovers in this stretch, didn't force a single turnover, 0-7 from the field. They blew a 13-point lead. They didn't have Krivas, who was out, but again, not an excuse. Okay. You lead by 13 in the second half against a UCLA team that's good, but you're in command of it, and you give it all away. Credit to Cronin and Tyler Bilodeau, transfer from Oregon State. Nice game, 17 points. Eric Daly Jr. was a defensive prowler in this game. He was big. Sky Clark had 15 points as well. But the story is Arizona, and the disappointment there. Doesn't have a top 100 win. Best win is against Davidson. Worst start through 9 games since 2009, 2010, when they had that weird coaching transition period. Yeah, it's a problem. And I had 2 folks mention to me like a couple weeks ago, they just wondered if Arizona's collective talent was like a step or 2 down from normal. And I didn't want to think it in the moment, but I've seen enough now where I can't argue against this. Like, maybe Lloyd gets this back on the right track eventually, and they find a way, and they just gut and claw, and they're the number 6 team in the Big 12. Maybe they get that done. But I've seen them now in person and a number of times on television, and I am looking at a team that looks disjointed. It's fascinating to compare Arizona with Kentucky, because Kentucky looks like a team, even though these dudes didn't know each other 7 months ago. You watch Kentucky play, and you think the majority of these guys have been together for 2 or 3 years. And you watch Arizona, and there are multiple stretches when you watch them, and it feels as though they all got together the night before and talked about the game plan over dinner after having just met each other. It's super weird. Lloyd's an awesome coach, runs a great system, but this group just does not seem to have it, and I'm interested to see if they can somehow get it back, or if this is going to be a season that just goes by the wayside.
As you were talking, I thought you were going to say something other than what you said. You said, I wonder if their collective talent is where it usually is. I thought you were going to say, I wonder where their collective is. Do you have any insight into what Arizona's NIL situation is?
I think it's pretty good. My understanding of it, generally speaking here, is that they are the kind of program. Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I won't mention the particular school here, obviously, but I got a note in the past 48 hours about a team they're having a solid season, a good season so far. They're having a good season, and currently there is concern that will be alleviated, I think, in the next 3 to 4 weeks. But behind the scenes, there's just like, do we actually have enough money to pay out our NIL for the next month, or do we need to go call some people? I'm serious. Like, it was passed along to me. It's like, really, this program right now? Anyway, the point is this: Arizona carries a reputation for not having those issues and paying out its players, but also it never over promises and under delivers and all that kind of stuff. So it's got a good collective, not a great collective. I don't know exactly what number it was operating with this past offseason. My blind guess would be somewhere in the general 3 million or so range. But I think no matter how you slice it, this is one of the teams that is, not performing and meeting expectations monetarily in any other way you want to put it.
Yeah, well, 3 million, I don't think gets you into the top third of the Big 12.
Yeah, probably not.
Right. So it's just, I remember last year UCLA got off to a rough start, and when you would ask Mick Cronin, or anybody would ask Ms. Cronin, he would immediately go to NIL. And I mean, immediately.
He did not give an F.
Like, he was like, if you want to sign Shohei Ohtani, you got to be the Dodgers, and we're not the Dodgers. All right.
Yeah.
Well, now I think it was at some point in the preseason or maybe early in the season, somebody asked him a similar question. Like, well, it looks like you got, he's like, yeah, well, I got money now. We got money now. We didn't have money before. Now we have money. Now we have a different kind of roster. Independent of Arizona's NIL situation, I do think this is true. The talent that left the program for NIL money was superior than the talent that was brought in for NIL money. And that seemed clear to me in the preseason. It's undeniable now as you're sitting here at 4-5 and early, sure, but I don't love the idea of being 4-5 as you ain't even played a Big 12 game yet. That's not where you want to be. And which is not to say they haven't played a Big 12 team. They have played a Big 12 team, West Virginia, but it wasn't a conference game because it was at a tournament.
Yeah.
But they did lose that one in overtime. Again, 4-5 through 9 with a whole Big 12 schedule in front of you. This it could go the wrong way.
They're like one. I don't have it in front of me. I looked at it earlier. And wins above bubble at Torvik. They're like 127 right now. It's really bad. I remember when I talked to Tommy Lloyd the night before the Duke game when I was out there. Some of the conversation was about the non-conference schedule, and he doesn't run from any of this, and he genuinely does schedule ambitiously. He's working on home and homes, and he wanted to see what his team was made of before they got into the Big 12, and he wanted to really test them. And damn, man, like they have got to have a come to Jesus moment and figure out what's going on. Real quick on UCLA, then we got to tour through the rest and then get out of here. I'm going to drive home. UCLA is 9-1, and I thought this team would have a good shot at being a top 3 team in the Big Ten. I can't step off that whatsoever at this point. Most 2 recent wins at Oregon, fought through it, 2-point win, and then Arizona on the Phoenix Suns home floor, fight through it, come back, 3-point win, gutty stuff, and they are defense first the whole way. There's a chance this UCLA team will resemble some of Cronin's Cincinnati clubs as well. Whether that will lead to success in March remains to be seen, but hell of a way to just turn off Arizona's water. Let's talk your alma mater, man. Memphis is 8-2. I talked about Penny Hardaway in my Norlanders Notes segment on HQ to wrap up the night here from the studio. This program had so much tumult and just the offseason was super weird, man. It was super turbulent. You had firings on the staff, NCAA investigation going on, all this stuff. And you look up, Memphis is 8-2. Penny, we've talked about it recently on the show, so we don't have to do a coda on it entirely, but it's paying off. I'm going to make another. I'm handing them out left and right. Memphis is going to the tournament, GP. They have performed so well in the non-con. Wins over UConn, Missouri, Clemson today on the road, Michigan State. They're still going to go to Virginia, probably will win that game. And then even if they just split the Mississippi schools that are upcoming here in non-con, they're doing wonderful, man. Tyrese Hunter had 7 threes again for the second time in a game. Colby Rogers had 22. Yeah, it was really, really, really impressive how they got the win. And there was a fun visual. I don't know how much of the game you saw or you didn't, but Clemson students are on winter break, obviously. So when the game started, it looked like almost nobody was there. And then some grade school kids were in the building, and wherever they were sitting, they moved them to the student section. So they're like on the bleachers. So it was such a fun visual that you almost never see. You've got like these 6 and 7-year-olds that are at this game, and they were just thrilled as pigs in mud to watch this thing, GP. And then it didn't matter when Memphis scored or Clemson scored, they were cheering every time. It was really, really cool and really funny. So to the person or people that thought on their feet and were like, let's let these 8-year-olds come down and watch this thing from 3 rows up here. It was awesome and a really fun way to start today. Congrats to Memphis, 87-82 over Clemson in overtime. Big time win, quad 1 win that will last. And again, it's going to boost the Tigers into the tournament. They'll be a single-digit seed in March.
Yeah. You just hope they don't give it all back in the league the way they did last season. But the league is worse this season than it was last season, and they should be so much better than everybody else in the league. I mean, they've got 4 quadrant 1 wins now. The only school in the country with more is Auburn, I believe. Yeah. So, if they don't give one back to Arkansas State last weekend, they'd be ranked in the top 10 come Monday. Some of this is Tyrese Hunter, he was great in this one, 23 points, 7-11 from 3. Coincidentally, I was talking to Chris Beard, the Ole Miss coach, earlier in the week about a million other things that have nothing to do with Memphis. But at some point, because Ole Miss plays at Memphis December 28th, I was like, I said, have you seen Memphis at all? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, so what do you we're talking, it was like the Arkansas State loss. He says, they're going to be fine. And I said, why do you think they'll be fine? He said, Tyrese Hunter. He said, I coached Tyrese Hunter. He did at Texas. He said, that young man's made of the right stuff. He will not let this get away from them. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I like it when coaches are complimentary of their former players that are playing elsewhere. Like, instead of saying, well, yeah, he took our money and then he took somebody else's money and blah, 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 blah. And he was just being complimentary of Tyrese Hunter. He's like, I can't speak to Memphis' whole team, but I know that guy. And as long as he's the one who's leading them, they're going to be fine. And he comes out today. Clemson, Kentucky couldn't win at Clemson, or at least didn't win at Clemson. And that's the only place Kentucky has lost this season. And it's not just Tyrese Hunter's 3-point shooting that's wild. It's Memphis was 12 of 25 from 3. They're shooting 44.3% from 3 on the season. It ranks second in the country. And it's mostly coming from the 1-2-3, Tyrese Hunter, Kobe Rogers, PJ Haggerty. And they're all shooting career high percentages from 3. And some of these percentages are dramatically higher than they've ever been. Haggerty last season at Tulsa shot 28.9% from 3. He's now shooting 39.4%. He's up 10.5 percentage points. Tyrese Hunter shot 34.3% from 3 last season at Texas. He's now at 51.6% from 3. He's up 17.3 percentage points. And then Kobe Rogers, 40.9% from 3 last season, Wichita State. He's up to 44.6% from 3 this season. He's up 3.7 percentage points. So Memphis's 3 starting guards are 70 of 151 from 3 on the season. Memphis's 3 starting guards are shooting 46.4% from 3-point range. I don't know if this is going to hold up, but the biggest reason Memphis is off to this 8-2 start is they're not shooting threes at the rate at which some of the schools who are really committed to it shoot them, but they are making them just about, they rank second in the country in 3-point field goal percentage. They're making them at an extremely high rate.
Quick tour around, and then we can wrap. Cincinnati Xavier, 68-65. Cincinnati wins. Crosstown shootout. Cincinnati snips a 5-game losing streak against X. Some good timely plays down the stretch. Admittedly, this was in that window where I was driving from my house down to CBS Sports HQ studio, so I actually did not catch the final 15 minutes or so of this game on the game clock there. Xavier's got UConn next. Big one there for the X-Men. Cincinnati building itself out a nice little resume there, and that was obviously a really good win. That was Miller versus Miller. Of course, Wes Miller's team wins. Sean Miller's team loses. Speaking of rivalry games, Georgetown quietly 8-2. If I told Georgetown fans I'd give you 8-2 to start the season, they would have taken it. 75-71 win at the Carrier Dome. Q's, by the way, 5-5 under Red Autry this season. Jaden Epps had 27 points and made 4 threes in this game for the Hoyas. And Thomas Sorber, who's another really good freshman in college hoops, he added 16 here. Don't know how good Georgetown is or not, but definitely take 8-2, and that's some really nice signaling there, especially for it's good to know that the Big East probably will avoid having an outright terrible team this season. The league could certainly use that at this point. And then game went final, actually, about an hour ago since we started the show here. Boise State won in overtime against St. Mary's. That's a significant win for the Mountain West and for Boise State. So a needed win for Leon Rice's team to try and build out a resume there. Good win for them. 2 results in the Big Ten. I think you've got the video here. Rutgers Seton Hall, another rivalry game. Didn't going in, just didn't have a lot of urgency to it. Nationally speaking, Rutgers, the game's on your home floor. You can't really afford to not get this one done. Well, if you're dialed in, you know what happened. But if not, and if you're just listening, let's cue up the video here of Dylan Harper making his first truly huge shot in a Rutgers uniform.
9 points, and here we go. End to end. Dylan Harper at the buzzer. Hello, how do you do?
Rutgers could GP. Rutgers could ill afford to lose a home game to a middling Seton Hall team in that spot. So Rutgers now at this point is a 7-4 team, and it's coming off of a 4-point home win against Penn State on Tuesday, and then it wins a 3-point game here at home against Seton Hall to get to 7-4. Princeton awaits on Saturday. Princeton got him last season there. Good on Dylan Harper, his older brother, his big bro. It wasn't a 3-pointer to beat number 1 Purdue or anything like that, but a cool moment for him all the same.
Yeah, just happy for the whole family, right? Dylan, Ron, Bryce, 2-time MVP, National League.
Like the cousin, people don't realize that. But
yeah, people are. I million times I hear people, Ron Harper, Dylan Harper, Ron Harper, Dylan Harper. Bryce Harper is a 2-time National League MVP. I saw somebody
12:30 at night, folks. What do you want?
Somebody actually emailed me to explain to me that Bryce Harper is a baseball player, not related to Dylan Harper. That Dylan Harper's father played basketball is Ron Harper, but Bryce Harper's a different person. And I was like,
so.
Yeah, if you say so, buddy. But I got Google too. All right. Let's stop. Bryce deserves some attention. 2-time National League MVP. He's great, isn't he?
Dylan Harper?
Yeah.
Or Bryce. I mean, they're both great in their own ways.
I don't want to have to rank Harpers.
I don't want them. Don't make me choose. Okay.
Don't make me choose between my Harpers.
That's right.
I love them all. I love all the Harpers, really.
Yeah, Dylan had 24 in this game, 8 of 13 from the field, made 4 threes. He does have and again, a loaded year for freshmen. He does have a case as the best one so far. Last result here, getting late. It's from Friday.
Oh, man.
Man, oh, man.
These poor guys.
I mean, they really did try and just walk into Pinnacle Bank Arena. They tried, Indiana did. And when you just assume, see, the thing is, like, you can't just assume that you can just walk into that building. Because what happens is you lose by 17 points and go down 85-68. 85. I'm not even kidding. My wife, we wound up watching the Twisters movie, which was solid. It was solid. Like, glad we watched it. I think I prefer the original, but it was worth doing a Friday night. But when she was ready to get going on this, I was like, I gotta watch a little bit more of this. She's like, why? I was like,
that's a good question.
They're trying to walk into Pinnacle Bank right now, babe. Like, you see what they're trying to do? You see what they're trying to do.
You can't name your arena after Illinois' arena and then all these years later think you could just walk in the Pinnacle Bank. It's particularly when you haven't finished in the top 25 at KenPom.
Well,
2016.
We did get fact-checked in the chat earlier. Apparently, there was a previous assembly hall at Indiana before the Illinois Assembly Hall. So then Indiana built a second assembly hall, but Indiana might have actually named its home basketball venue Assembly Hall before Illinois. That might be why there wasn't a huge PR push from Illinois.
Okay. I reject that.
Wait, you reject that potential reality?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't like what that does to my story.
Okay.
All right. Here's what I know. The assembly hall that I've been to in Bloomington, the assembly hall that I have watched Kelvin Sampson coach in, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
That assembly hall. There was another assembly hall in Champaign, Illinois, built before that one. That's what I know.
That's true.
That's what I know.
Here's what I know. We're past 12:30. We got to wrap this show here.
God.
Okay. Indiana's 8-3. Best wins are home against South Carolina, Providence in the Bahamas, and Sam Houston stayed at home. That's the best I can do for you. I'm not even kidding you. That's the best. We warned you about this. They had a terrible non-conference schedule. Nebraska's obviously not even a non-con game. They got Chattanooga and Winthrop on the docket here. Indiana's going to have to really do some damage in the Big Ten. This is the problem when the schedule makers give you a game at Nebraska in December. It can toss your whole season down a different alleyway than you thought. 52nd at KenPom right now. That's a tough loss for IU fans there who are not satisfied whatsoever with the rotation or the production of the roster to this point. But that's where you're at, and we'll see if you can turn it around.
Yeah, it's a tough deal, Norlander. I mean, the program's going through it right now. They haven't finished in the top 25 at KenPom since 2016. Hadn't finished ahead of Purdue in the Big Ten standings since 2016. Hadn't made an Elite Eight since 2002. Hadn't won a national title.
All right, it's too. We don't need to do this.
87.
Don't need to do this right now.
Okay, but we're living in the past. What about the Mike Woodson era that we were so excited about? Oh man, their internet worked like crazy early in the Mike Woodson era. But now here we are. Year 1 started 30th at KenPom, finished 48th. Year 2 started 12th, finished 30th. Year 3 started 50th, finished 91st. Here we are in year 4, started 42nd. You're now sitting at 52nd, trending the wrong direction once again. But I'm sure it'll be all right. Just got to give it time.
All right. Quick look ahead. You got the schedule? What do the people need to know?
Not much. Honestly, we could end it right here if you wanted to, but in the spirit of being true to our word, let's look ahead for a second. Nothing nationally notable is going to happen on Sunday unless Iowa State or Oregon lose as a big favorite.
Okay.
That's why we're talking to you late on a Saturday night, because nothing that happens Sunday should be too big of a deal. San Francisco, Loyola, Chicago, I guess, is a fun mid-major.
Loyola's undefeated, decent mid-major, but that's it. Yeah,
that's part of a triple header in Milwaukee. We're getting Milwaukee, Oakland, Northwestern, Georgia Tech, San Francisco, Loyola, Chicago. Remember when you asked me if I could trust Fiserv Forum, and I was like, well, no, because they 2-time Marquette.
It's a 3. This sounds like a 3-timer situation. Actually.
I mean, this is some Lily Phillips stuff if I ever seen it.
Okay.
They let the Golden Eagles call themselves home, but then whenever Chris Middleton and Giannis and Dame want to call it home, they're like, I'll be your home too. And now look at this. Panthers, Wildcats, and Ramblers are all going to call Fiserv Forum home on the same day. This is some Lily Phillips stuff if I ever seen it.
Sure, bro.
Monday, more nothing really. 0 ranked teams are scheduled to play, so that's when you should just catch up on Landman on Paramount.
Whatever show you got to catch up on. I'm one episode from finishing season 1 of Andor. Been an awesome show. Monday nights, I'm getting it done.
I'm on Landman on Paramount Plus because I'm a good company man. Landman, starring John Hamm, Demi Moore, Allie Larder, and the great Billy Bob Thornton.
All right.
Landman, streaming now on Paramount Plus. Tuesday, we get a few interesting matchups. CBS Sports Network, UNLV at Dayton. See if the Flyers can stay red hot. Elsewhere, North Carolina, Florida. That's in Charlotte. DePaul at St. John's. Seton Hall at Villanova. Drake at Kansas State. Drake against Kansas State in Kansas City. This is actually a big game for both sides.
It is.
Kansas State spent $2 million on Coleman Hawkins, but is 6-3 with no good wins and losses to St. John's, LSU, and Liberty.
Lose here, borderline must-win situation here.
Lose here, and you're 6-4. You don't want to do that after you spent $2 million on Coleman Hawkins.
Nope.
As for Drake, 9-0 right now under first-year coach Ben McCollum. Started 133rd at KenPom, up to like 72 when I checked a few hours ago. They're 43rd in the net as of Saturday morning, 32nd in the AP poll. If Drake wins both games this week, so against Kansas State and then against Green Bay later on, they'd be 11-0 and maybe ranked on, heading into Christmas. So big game for Drake and Kansas State. Put that on your calendar.
That's it. That's a show. Late night Saturday pod. Hope everyone enjoyed. Glad we could get you this reaction here, and Nada tells me our live audience was humming pretty good there. So appreciate you all.
Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Terry Teagle, legend. Huck Larnell. Thank you guys once again for watching and listening to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, Apple, Spotify. More of us than there are of them. That should be reflected in the comments. So do that. We'll talk to you again real soon. Till then, take care.